Let me,
Yeah.
okay,
There we go. Yeah, the recording's working on my end. Yeah.
great. So welcome everyone to the November 2nd, the Day of the Dead, Earth Nouveau Hub, Exploring Consciousness. And today we have a special guest, Christopher Stephen Jacobs. Welcome.
Oh, nice to be here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in, everybody, and hopefully more will join us. Thank you, Chris, so much for accepting the invitation to be here with us today. It's been a long time. Uh, I was wondering if I could go ahead and introduce you um, according to some of the stuff you had on your website.
Oh, of
Is
course,
that all
of
right
course.
with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Chris, for the past 20 years, he's been known as a psychic medium, channeler, remote viewer, and healer. During his sessions with clients, he assists people in clearing their energy fields of unwanted energies to bring them to their optimal health. Sometimes these unwanted energies come in the form of attachments or oppressive entities, siphoning off your energies. He has also helped people with past life issues, assists with contact with guides and loved ones, and assist in understanding your galactic history and a soul mission. He has also been given the gift as a channeler with a wide range of frequencies to speak to many different entities out there. This enables him to see more of our galactic family and be able to bring to us more information on our true galactic history and the learning experience we are in. So that's Chris in a nutshell. I didn't want to say
Oh,
anything
yeah,
else.
you did. Yeah, you did good. Yeah, with what I do, yeah, we do channelings all the time. Me and Joanna do a show called The Lifting. Not necessarily weekly, but we do that. We also own a brand called Galactic Interstellar Council, where we are bringing in a lot of galactic history information. The Lifting is going to eventually uh, have courses as to how to keep land clear, what to use, how to use it, things of that nature. And I do sessions with people, literally on a daily basis, getting rid of what Lana just said, getting rid of attachments, unwanted entities, things of that nature. And we've had some intrusions ourselves over the years, many, to be able to tell how to get rid of certain issues. Just like ways to protect yourself, we mainly use shungite, silver, tools of that nature to help out. Different liquids, different powders I use to keep unwanted entities away. Different devices we make, uh, and also different spells, rituals, incantations to keep them away, and maybe guide ghosts to the other side, but also make it so that they don't that things stay away from our property. We've had some trouble over the years with that, but we've kind of refined it down to a bit of an art. So it's taken a while to get to this point. We get somebody that runs the barricade every now and again, but it seems to. Of this morning, there was a bit of a ruckus in the house, but over the past several months, we've had some peace for once. From doing all the work that we do. So yeah, it's been pretty rough at times, but we've gotten through it. Most clients that I have usually have attachment problems. They usually sometimes some have curse problems. Some have like problems grounding or telepathic intrusions or possession issues or something of that nature. They usually call somebody like me a trench worker that goes in and does this. Um, Back when I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska, for instance, when I was younger, I did a lot of this in private. I went to paranormal sites and helped clear stuff and everything. Worked with a group of paranormal investigators at that time. Later on, eventually, guides had me go more public. I got on the radio and started from there. Originally, my business was called Watcher Speak, but then when Joanna came into my life back in 2016, we called it The Lifting after a while. And we've been at it ever since, doing a radio show. We have over, I believe, 150 episodes on the YouTube, and I have other shows like Galactic Interstellar Council. Used to do a live radio show. Now it's all under me and Joanna's umbrella. And there was at least 200 of those that I participated in. and a lot of paranormal investigation files. If people go to my YouTube and look up Christopher S. Jacobs on YouTube, you'll see me and Joanna's picture right away.
So you
Also, the
also have
website.
also have an Etsy store, is that correct? Where you sell
On the
things
website,
from you?
if you go to thelifting.net, uh,
Mhm.
there's not only a place where you can schedule sessions, but there's a button that says our Etsy store. But if people want to go directly to the Etsy store, it is etsy.com/shop/the lifting, one word. And that is where we have our devices for sale. Anything that we make, from amber devices to shungite ones. I use a whole array of stones. The shungite ones create protective bubbles over the house, create tower buster, really potent magnetically based tower busters. And the amber ones tend to clean up like more death-like energies, ghost-like energies, and help ground a property. So putting them together works really well. I use things like selenite. I sell things like the selenite swords. I use these in my sessions a lot. Uh, this is exactly what it's meant for. Like if a demon comes close, you just get rid of it. You know, people laugh when I say I cut a demon's head off, but yeah, that's exactly what I have to do to keep it away from me. So this is also good for clearing the aura and disentangling and such. But the sword versions of it, when I bilocate to a property, when I project to a property, I can literally take selenite or its energy with me when I do it, and it actually works to use as a shield or a weapon. So if some people have kind of equated me to like the Witcher and doing stuff like that. I really don't. I always tell them like thank you, but it's a little more than the things like the show or things like that. It's more direct. It's not as theatrical. It is, you clean it up and it's done. So that's just more Hollywoody theatrics there. But one of my favorites, but still. But the work that I do over the years has been very arduous, very draining on myself. But I've gotten to the point where it's actually become more of a benefit. It's become a benefit to know these things exist, from aliens to ghouls to ghosts and goblins, all of that, to be able to resolve this not only for ourselves but for other people as well.
So that sword, that's a knife that you have there. Is that made out of selenite?
Yeah, this is selenite. Yeah,
Oh
so
wow,
yeah,
that's pretty
I got
cool.
several of these. I got to be careful with this one. This is the only serrated one I have. I got little ones for clearing auras and stuff like that, and I have uh, I have several throughout the house. That not only do I keep them in places we sleep to be able to keep disentangling the energy, I keep them around the windows along with silver coins and salt pucks and stuff like that. I keep them in places where I can actually grab one if I need one to do a clearing in the house or something intrudes or something like that. I kind of added the kind of like the spiritual aspect with more the warrior aspect. I kind of melded both of those together. So it's been a bit rough, but yeah, it's to the point we've gotten to. We've managed to keep our house pretty safe. I keep what I call salt pucks in the windows to keep things out. I made these portable salt faces that
Yeah,
I keep in my pocket. And this is Black Witch's salt in this one, and this is Dead Sea salt in this one. So I keep
cool.
black and white
Hmm.
in my pockets, along with amber, frankincense, and myrrh are in those. So anything tries to come near me, they don't like having the salt barrier around me. So I figured I would take a time-honored tradition and just make it portable. So that's how I did that. But I put them in the windows, put them against our mirrors. They can't be used as doorways. So along with covering mirrors with red cloth, I had to do that recently to keep things from looking at us. So a mixture of all of these time-honored tools mixed with new modern like portability is kind of how the other route I went.
Cool.
How is that salt encased? Is that like wax or
Uh, it is uh, it is actually epoxy resin, the
epoxy
one-to-one
resin?
resin.
Mhm.
And I've noticed, like, if I use the organic stuff, though organic is more preferred, it tends to rot. If you keep it outside or do something like that, it tends to wear down after a while. So I chose the one-to-one because 100 years from now, it'll still be exactly the same. So when I have tower busters and what I call high frequency activators and stuff outside, I have a whole communication arc set aside for like positive beings that come in and want to talk that way. I have these devices outside, and they have to be able to withstand the elements. So I make it out of the epoxy resin, so none of the elements will damage any aspect of it. Because if it gets damaged, it's going to malfunction or do something wrong. So we have to keep it intact. So I want to make sure these things last and stand the test of time, and not have people don't have to keep coming back and keep buying new ones every few months. I make it so that people have them forever.
Sounds good.
Is that something you sell on your Etsy store also?
Oh yes,
That's
yes.
cool.
On the Etsy store, I don't have the salt pucks up right now. I have a bunch in storage that I haven't put up yet, but I have the Tower Busters. I have these amber cupcakes that are on there. Those are usually the two most popular. I have a ton of skulls that I make that are like this, uh, and this has actual turquoise powder in it. That's another good stone to use. This has shungite nuggets and copper at the center of it, and I keep these around for protection pieces. Well, normally I wouldn't recommend anything with a face, but if you add shungite and silver and such to it, it tends to be safe, because anything with a face can be hijacked. So what I do is I create these with the shungite and silver in them, and also the big Tower Buster communication arcs that I have outside. They're a plate that's about that big, and they have two copper pipes sticking up with a skull in the center. And I use those for interfaces. Uh, a guy that I talk to quite often named Isaac uses the one in the corner out here, and I talk also to the forest people, the ones people know as Sasquatch, telepathically as well. They use the other one that I have out here. I'm in Prescott Valley, Arizona. We have constant communications with forest people here, so they were some of the main beings that I've communicated with in this area, along with other elemental type forms. But yeah, Isaac uses that one, and the forest people use the other one. And I have a what I call a high frequency activator in the center. That's a black plate with a copper pipe in it. That completes the arc with one of these skulls sitting next to it. So they have to pass through it in order to get to us. And I programmed these devices to not only shield but also identify whatever shows up, so that I'm aware of what it is. So that's how we had to play it after a while, because there were just too many things that were attracted to the work from both positive and negative. We had to be very much more discerning over the years. Yeah.
So what distance when you make a Tower Buster, what distance does it cover from the point where you put it in your property?
So from what I've been able to see, since I can see the energy fields, I can see the torsion fields coming out of these things. They kind of erupt out, kind of like either sparklers or a shield, depending on what type it is. With the Tower Busters, the cupcake shaped Tower Buster, if I had one sitting here, I'd show it to everybody. But well, it's about this big, and one seems to cover roughly. If you have a property, this is about maybe 800 square feet. Is this property? One Tower Buster, if I were to put it in the center of the house, would cover roughly about, it seems, half that. So I usually tell people with about 1,000 square feet and up have 4 of these little devices on their house, or on the corners of the house, and it creates this shield over the house. Any more than that in that small space will overwhelm. So you have to have the right amount for the square footage of the property. But one Tower Buster, it looks to me it covers about maybe 400 or 500 square feet from what I can see. Yeah.
So I thought maybe it expanded out where maybe it enters into your neighbor's property or something like that.
Oh yeah, it can. Oh, it definitely can. If you have a lot here, we used to store all our devices on this property, like everything we made, and we got overwhelmed. I noticed I had at least 250 devices that I had in storage containers. We have a school behind us in the neighborhood here. That torsion field is so strong it blanketed over the front end of the school, and that's at least a block from here.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a lot of them with shungite. Shungite links to itself, so you will quantumly have a shungite device that says here and say where all of you are. They'll be linked forever. Shungite links to itself, and so does silver. So if you couple the two of them together, they work incredibly well. Now, yeah, can I send say etheric updates to these devices? Yes. because they're all linked. This is why when we travel, I throw shungite nuggets and put these tower busters in places. We recently were outside of Disney World not too long ago, and I left a few hidden in the area around Disney World when we were in Florida. When we got there just as Hurricane Ian decided to greet us this year, but these devices, yeah, they will kind of communicate and talk to each other, and that's how I designed it. But an individual device is roughly 400 or 500 square feet.
Okay. So I had this one shungite piece that was silver saturated shungite, and I had it one morning with me, and I put it in my pocket, and I walked up the stairs, from downstairs up the stairs, and I had my coffee cup with me. I put my coffee cup down. I went to the bedroom to take the shungite out of my pocket to put it down, and lo and behold, there was nothing in my pocket anymore. Within 30 seconds, it just vanished from my pocket and disappeared.
Well, things also can pickpocket you too. I've run into elementals that like to steal things. So,
really?
oh yeah, I've run into gnomes and everything. Like mischief. They're mischievous, but at the same time, they're not evil. So I tend to let some things ride because they're not harassing me or doing something. There was one the other day that decided to push a glass bottle off of my shelf and break it out in the garage. But when I was out there, you see, I make sprays as well, and I use vodka when I make some of the sprays. So I was pulling the bottle out, and then something decided to get behind it and go and then break it onto the floor. So I had to hunt whoever it was down. I found out he wasn't bad; he was just playing a joke. So I was like, okay, just don't do it again. I don't want to lose any more of that. But yeah, they can pickpocket and make things vanish. Forest people will even do this too. They will literally take something from somewhere else and give it to you if they like you. So they're essentially an elemental as well. So they do sometimes the same things. I've noticed that in watching their pattern. Here's a good example of this of an elemental doing this. Me and Joanna went to Globe, Arizona, about maybe I'd say about a year ago, and we were doing a lecture down there. And I found out in that area there was some galactics that were taking the side of a mining company that were down there. Some galactics like to mine resources here on Earth periodically, and some of the elemental races there weren't liking what these guys were doing. So I was kind of telepathically trying to talk to these galactics to see what was going on, and I kind of went into negotiation mode. I managed to get some things, the energy to calm afterwards. What these elementals did was I was walking down the street where we were doing the lecture, and $40 appeared at my feet. So literally it was just right there. And they're like, here. And I said, technically you just had to pickpocket somebody to give me that. They're like, and? So that's their attitude. So that's their attitude. So I think that's hilarious.
So he or she was being like Robin Hood, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a whole group of little elementals that were saying, "Yeah, here," So I could hear when I speak to them telepathically. Most of these beings have mind speak capabilities, so I've gotten to the point where I can actually communicate with them on their level. So in that way, I might not always be able to see them, but I can actually hear them mostly. I do see them when they show up, but if they're communicating over a great distance away, I can still hear them. So that's usually our life. It's like another Tuesday afternoon communicating with something or other.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, you've been doing this for quite a number of years now, since I first encountered you. You've talked to many beings out there. How many in numbers would you say you have spoken to of different species over the number of, let's just say, roughly 10 years, right? You've been public for about 10 years, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like kind of more of a loaded question, because that's like trying to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar. But it's
right.
But yeah, I would have to say, given the different multitudes of races I've talked to over the years, it's probably somewhere around, I would have to say, maybe 300 or 400 different types and variations that I've run into over the years. They could be even from the same planet, but there may be different races on that planet,
Yeah.
or they are or they're part of a group or a part of a council or something of that nature, and they could be from a different species. So counting all those variations, about 300-400 times.
So do you keep track of all the different species? Like, do you write them down? Like,
Oh
when
yeah.
you're
Oh yes, I
encountering
do.
them?
I plan on, for our Galactic Interstellar Council brand at some point, creating objects like T-shirts and such to get people educated on the different races and different race types. Some of the most common ones I run into are more human-like, and there's a group in Cassiopeia that I contact the most right now. They're
Mhm.
called the Saranan people. They come from a world called Sarana, and they're in the big W in the sky, the big Cassiopeian W,
Yeah.
and they communicate with me the most, and their closest neighbor, the Mozen, are ones that communicate the most out of them. But they come from the same solar system. Very fascinating sets of people. It would take me hours to even say their history and everything, and how it's interwoven with ours. But they them and a multitude of other races that look similar. Some are from the Pleiades. I've had some from Sirius, some from Arcturus Boots. Everybody kind of come to talk. It's rare I get anybody from Andromeda though, but I've have had it. Mostly anymore, it's usually the Cassiopeians, or it's usually like elementals that mainly talk to me, like forest people or elf type beings, or gnome type beings that speak to me pretty much anymore.
Hmm.
But I do get, when I get a galactic race, sometimes have to be more cautious because a lot of them tend to have an agenda. So I have to be very cautious who I'm speaking to and what message they want to bring across. I have to be
Yeah.
extremely anal retentive when it comes to that. So it's like I have to give them I have to run them through the ringer. I was like, I don't mean disrespect, but A,
Hmm.
B, C, D, F, G. I have to get all forms of ID from them and everything. And I recommend that to anybody that gets into this. You have to get ID. If anything is unwilling to give that to you, don't interact with them, because they could be any form of trickster. Counting the tricksters in there, I would say it's closer to 500 variations of beings.
Uh-huh.
But if you count the bad guys in there, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
been pretty interesting over the last decade.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask Chris? Jump right in.
I have a quick question. How old were you when you started discovering that you could communicate?
Oh yeah, I was roughly the age of 5, actually. If you don't count any of the secret space program stuff in there, that I can get into that in a different show because that would take hours to explain that. But given paranormal type stuff, that would be about the age of 5. I encountered my grandfather. Actually, it was age of 4 because my grandfather had passed away when I was 4, and then right after he passed away, I spotted him at the side of my bed, and he was there. My mother came in and said, Dad, please don't do that. You're going to scare him. Wait till he's older. He obviously can see you. Don't, my mother's had these abilities too, but I would have to say between the ages of 3 and 5 is when that really began to kick in. Now, if you want to fast forward to when I was 29, when I came down here to Arizona to go to film and photography school, I got into a bad accident that had me in the intensive care for like a month. And I went through a near death experience, and I came back with more extremely heightened capabilities. I had them before that. I was channeling and doing stuff before that. When I came back, they were in hyperdrive, and I was able to see energy cores. I was able to basically get rid of demons. I was able to see a whole manner of beings just with human eyes past that point. So it was more of like an update or an upgrade that I got when I came back. I came back with more information and more capability. My brain pretty much rebooted at that point, and I was able to basically able to encode and decode a greater range of stuff. So like I said, that's more of a loaded question there, but the true origin point is somewhere between 3 and 5 years old.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, if I may go ahead, thank you so much for being here with us. I've been
Yes. Thank
enjoying
you.
every single word. And so basically, I'm humanity's greatest fan. I really love us bunch of weirdos, but we're an amazing bunch of weirdos. But I'd like to ask you, from your point of view, you've been in this business, and let's just call it following your calling, for a long time. And I also am very interested in patterns that emerge. So, from your perspective, how is humanity as a whole changing? So, over the years, what has become more? What has become less?
Oh, that's actually a very interesting question. I actually like questions like that because I have seen certain things, like even if you count like ancient times, you've seen people, forget certain things from ancient times by quite a bit, like from metallurgy to even other scientific endeavors, spiritual endeavors. But at the same time, coming into this age, they've lost even more with the technological age, with the advent of like computers and 5G and phones and all this. They've lost a lot of that spiritual center. They want to be connected more. Some people want to be connected more in a transhumanistic sort of way. And then there's a divide between there and those that have gone more the spiritual path. There's more of a definitive divide. Now, physically, evolution-wise, I've seen some more psychic capabilities popped up. I've seen more DNA conversion from what people call the carbon base to more of a crystalline base. I've actually started to see some of that where your DNA starts to change. The more shadow work you do, the more junk you get rid of, the more of that compression that has hit you over the years that you're releasing. You're releasing your DNA from a carbon base to a more crystalline base. I've seen evidence of that. I've seen people that have passed away that when they die, they leave behind just crystal forms and crystalline forms. They depicted that in one of the Star Trek series too, and that was actually quite accurate where someone being died and left behind a crystal cluster. I've actually seen things of that nature. It's usually monks that go through this, but I've also seen evolution in the way the spiritual thinking is. It used to be back in the 90s and 2000s, a little before, where people would think that they had to separate certain emotions from themselves. And now you're seeing more of an integration and a balance taking place between more of a warrioristic way of thinking and more of a spiritualistic way of thinking. I've actually seen the fusions between those. Used to be people separated them. I'm actually starting to see the evolution and the fusion of both as time goes on. And this is something even 10 years ago you weren't seeing a lot of. And within a very small bracket of time, I've seen that change. And since 2020 occurred, I've seen this upsurge in people noticing even the shenanigans the government's pulling, anything like that. I don't want to get anybody flagged. I'm not going to say any of the keywords here, but I don't want to get anybody canceled. But I'm just saying that since that, I saw this extreme uptick in being able to discern what people say around them, what people do around them. So I hope that answers your question. But that's the patterns I've been noticing. Yeah.
That's really amazing. So I think that we could all probably agree that we should be very optimistic. So although in the physical realm things are really chaotic, but it could be the storm before the calm. I think as a whole civilization, we're moving in the right direction. So thank you so much for your information. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And there's one thing I will expand on. One thing that I was shown that these evolutionary changes aren't going to be like overnight. Some things may appear like they've happened overnight, but I found that it's to get to a place of stability, it's going to be 50 or 60 years for a place of stability, and 140 for total world peace. I found out. I was able to see into a future where a variation where there was like a complete world peace, and I clocked the year somewhere around 140 years from now. So, or variation of that. I know people don't like to hear that. They want instant pudding, like Joanna likes to say, but it's something that has to be slow drip out of the human genome and out of basically the soul. And that's what I've noticed. I don't always approve because sometimes because we get battered and targeted sometimes, and I get into a real crotchety mood. I'm like, why do we have to do this? Why do I get that way? But I'm like everybody else. But yes, that's the pattern I've been seeing as well.
Amazing. Sorry, guys, I'm going to be really greedy here. I got one more question.
Go for it.
So
Go for it,
ahead.
Amir. Greedy. Could do it.
Ask
Yeah.
as many as you want.
Yeah.
That's fine.
thank you for being so gracious.
Yeah.
So I noticed you've got crystals on your wrist. So do I. The ones that you've arrived at now, because these combinations may change from time to time. But could you please enlighten us on what the crystal is and how you personally program them? Because these
Oh,
are now
sure.
on your person, right? That's a very important piece of equipment that you're carrying.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Now with the rings, for instance, these are silver right here, and I use these. This one has opal and lapis lazuli in it, and this one has cat's eye and silver. Cat's eye tends to absorb and disperse different energetic and magnetic fields, and lapis lazuli is, I believe, it's more assertiveness in that way. And combined with silver, you have silver here. Silver the most important on the hands because these two meridians on the ring fingers uh, tend to get very clogged because you're always touching things, you're always picking things up. It's like the feet; they get clogged, and you have to clear them out constantly. Shungite and silver help there as well. So if you have shungite pads in your shoes, you can avert some of the junk that gets into the feet. Because we walk other people's footsteps that have been here for thousands of years, and we pick up entanglements all over the place. With this, it's something similar from touch. And this meridian that goes all the way up here tends to be one of the most clogged. Whatever hand you happen to be, like right hand, left hand, that's the one that gets clogged, or the receiving hand, I should say, is the hand that gets clogged. And the reason I wear those is it tends to block anything that gets in there. Curses sometimes will hit the hands too, where you have etheric rings that appear on the fingers as well. I've run into a multitude of those where something tries to curse your hands and what they touch and what they're used for, sort of thing. And I found a way to put a stop to that too with blocking with energetics of silver. Now with these I have shungite, cat's eye, and hematite on these, and this one has lava rock and labradorite on this one, and the hematite, that's one of the really important ones. It keeps you grounded. Grounding is something that's been very, especially since 2020, has been absolutely extremely important. Not that it wasn't before, but more so after 2020, I noticed people were getting degrounded. So hematite works not only for grounding, it helps heal. So does magnetite. I use those in some of the other pieces as well. But when I go to sleep, sometimes I'll wear hematite bracelet. And the reason this is important, or having hematite next to your bed, is because it prevents your light body from being taken. Like if a negative being comes in to try to mess with your light body, fiddle with your codes, and try to put something back. And that is a form of abduction, that light body abductions do happen, where this hematite will prevent that from taking place, or its energy close to your bedside. So this is why I make pieces that have that in it as well. It's not just the other types. Now with shungite, that blocks, of course, technological radiation, that protects against negative entities, that protects against other negative energies. That's the one we swear by. There's also silver fittings in these pieces that blocks negative entities. It's just like in times past where you had vampires and werewolves afraid of silver. This is absolutely true for the different negative entities. I keep silver coins around all the time. You know, I got these all over the place. I have them in my wallet. I got them up here by the computer. You know, if somebody came into this house, they would look all over the place and go. They'd be like, "What the hell?" You know, they would see my house. I have like red scarves like on the so you see that one poking through the door a little bit over there. I have those to block the some of the negative entities that don't like color red. I'm going to have Tibetan flags up. If people showed up, they thought like a fairy or something lived here, because there's stuff all over the place that I'm trying out. I'm trying different methods out. But before I get too far off track, the labradorite, that would be more wisdom. I switch it from wrist to wrist all the time. You know, either giving or receiving. You know, that's that. The lava rock, that's more of a protective piece as well. And grounding all of this together with the hematite, it grounds it to my person. The silver, everything, and that's why I have these on no matter where I go. And the one I didn't show you, the one around my neck, is a piece that I made myself. And this is amber, frankincense, myrrh, black tourmaline, and selenite. That's in here. And also the plant base that's inside of this is belladonna nightshade. And combining all that together, it disperses any magical spells or curses trying to come at me. It just hits it and then disperses it. Because one of the most targeted places on somebody is their thymus, thyroid, and heart space. I've noticed. Base of spine too. The head gets it, but not like right here. So I put this on my person. Now, what you don't see me wearing is my hat. I normally have a hat on that has shungite and cat's eye all around, like yours. I have one that's very similar to yours, and I put it around my head if I know I'm getting into a really ornery, energetic situation. I've started to get more immune over a period of time, having been on the East Coast where I didn't need my hat out there by the ocean. The salt and ions from the ocean kept me shielded enough to where I didn't need a lot of some of this stuff out there. Hence why we're going to move out there in about a year. Another reason to go out that way. Joanna's family's out there. We're gonna go out that way. But the pieces of shungite that I had around the head prevented anything negative from bombarding the top of my crown, and also from negative energy waves like from 5G and all that from hitting me in the head. In the house, I don't always have to worry about that. I've gotten used to not having it on during this, or else you would see me like you, Amira, where I have my hat on. This is right next to me. I'm sitting right next to Wi-Fi, right here. It's like maybe 3 feet from me. It's in the closet here, along with a server and battery and everything in here. I can't say I've gotten completely used to it, but I'm trying to train my own energies to block a lot of this myself, so I can just kind of pass through it without it causing problems. But just in case, I have all of this on. I have my amulet on. I got my 2 salt pucks that I showed you, and I've noticed the combinations of all of these, the salt and the hematite, amber, frankincense, myrrh in my pockets. It tends to create the shields to the sides and to the front of me. And I've even had negative entities approach me in public at times, and they go to do something, and they back off because they sense they sense the stones and stuff on me, and they back off. Doesn't mean they don't try to follow us somewhere, but that's what we've run into in public. But I hope that adequately explains that.
Absolutely. I would like to sincerely thank you. You just gave our esteemed audience a year or two worth of information if they wanted to research it themselves. So thank you so much. Beautifully put. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just admitted, Chris, you're a wizard.
Yeah, I ended up getting that label years ago when somebody called me Chris the Wizard, and I'm like that. But at the same time, I suppose by definition they're not wrong. But yeah. So I did it. The nickname kind of stuck after a while. But yeah, Joanna asked me one time. She goes, "Why did you have the Chris the Wizard label on your YouTube videos before I met you?" I was like, well, the other person named it. He thought it was appropriate, and she's like, no, yeah, by definition, yes, but she's like, no, we got to retool this a little bit. So, yeah, I thought that was funny.
So, Amir, you were a wizard in a past life, weren't you? With that drawing that Roxana did on you.
I don't think there was a life where I wasn't involved in some sort of a energetic field, but that would be true for all of us, right? This is not something that you can just wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to be a wizard.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
So for all of us, we've been in business for a long time, and I believe that many of us have transcended the reincarnation cycle long ago, earned the privilege to exit, but we're back here because we care. We care deeply for our fellow human beings and all life that currently occupies Mother Earth, of all natures, all different realms of reality and existence. So yes, we're here together again, not by accident. What we're doing here, our energies coming together, is also doing something very specific. So short answer, Lana, yes, pretty much.
Oh, because the drawing that she did of you, you look like you were a wizard in that particular lifetime. So
you
you had
this lifetime.
Right. And now, what does a wizard look like? Right.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror, Lana.
Looks like a regular person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a regular person.
We got proof right here, Chris and Amir.
Yeah.
And we are probably the witches. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions they want to ask Chris? Go ahead now.
I would love a question. I just had a comment first before the question. But Chris, I just really appreciate everything you shared with us today. And it was just a really refreshing confirmation of some of the things, through my work and my life. Like, okay, check, check, check. Sometimes the things that you think, is this correct? But it's just, thank you. It's just really refreshing, and for the work that you do. I did have a specific question. So in my work and with myself, I often find an energetic clamp or some kind of, very often. And the one thing that I have kind of summed up is that it feels like it's some kind of plug into the energetic system, kind of like the Matrix. I try to be protective of this area, but I wanted to know if you had a comment about either protecting that area or more illumination on it.
Oh, of course. I've had that happen before too. I noticed this with other people, and I tried to trace this piece of equipment back to where it came from, and I found a group of beings that was trying to supplant their consciousness for people's, and they were hijacking the silver cord and coming in and trying to slow drip their consciousness and traits in people over a period of hundreds of years. So it was very, very slow. And when I pulled out the device, I caught their attention. I couldn't see their true forms completely, but I knew they were evil. So it was they were trying to hijack that to be able to slowly drip into human form. Now the Orions and negative Orions that people have heard about do something similar to that, where they're trying to enter our form, or they're trying to basically vampire energies off of us. People know the looshing part of that. This is something very specific, where this clamp basically inverted the energies coming in to be more applicable to their physiology, or their compatible with their energy type. And this particular clamp, yeah, whenever you see something like that, rip it off immediately, because that's actually very dangerous. What it is, it's a holographic piece of equipment. It's physical, but it's like this bent light form, like you see in Star Trek, the photonic holographic technology. It's exactly the same. And this is something you fold. It folds over the neck and adds to the brainstem. And they're trying to stimulate not only the reptilian brain in people, since that's back here, but they're trying to make people more compatible with their energy type. And that's what that is. I know that's creepy, but yeah, that's what I was able to figure out about that. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, Chris, because, doing so much work about, shielding, and I'm usually pretty successful with that, but it was just maybe even 2-3 weeks ago, doing deep yoga, and I'm like, what? It must be very tricky.
It appears like in the blink of an eye, they'll like boom, like this. What we perceive as a blink of an eye, sometimes they're in a dimension where time is moving a little faster for them, and they can create pieces of equipment. Like to us, it could be in a few moments, but to them, it's like boom, 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 and they can do stuff, since they're in a different dimensional layer, that it's moving a little bit quicker. So that's why it keeps reappearing like snap of a finger like that.
Yeah, it just tricky.
And it's very tricky. Yeah, it's very dark too, and it's very good you've noticed that. A lot of people don't notice those.
Yeah, and I had another question for you, if you have, because I really try to manage, the spiritual armor well. But the one thing that is always been kind of tricky for me at the armors here, aside from crystals, do you have any ideas about the protection here, in the ethereal? Would it be a gold? Would it be, what could we put there to try to avoid that?
A magnetic, I've noticed. Like if like with my devices, they're magnetic, so I sometimes will put something around there briefly to try to disperse the holographic matrix they're using. And another reason I disperse devices is to cancel out a lot of these clamps and stuff I've been finding as well. It fogs basically fogs the air for them, so they can't quite put them on as fast as they would like. But if you're just going etheric protection, What I do is I basically shift it like from color to density variation and frequency variation. I basically take my frequency and I fluctuate it and making it so that since that is essentially also artificial intelligence involved in that, I tend to do like what they did in Star Trek, where they had the modulating shields. They did that to fight the Borg in that. So what I did do is I created a spiritual construct of modulating shields so that they can't quite lock on to myself at any given moment. That's so it's basically I move faster than they can move even in their dimensional states. So I tend to do that. My light body shifts and moves in constant it's constant movement. So that's how you keep going.
So it's almost as though if it's holographic, it's the game they're playing. So perhaps within our field, we could say, hey, we can play that game as well.
Oh yeah, we can play it better than they can because we can think and feel in a much broader spectrum than they can. They're missing a few codes that we possess, so we can actually go much further. Like they said in the movie The Matrix, like Morpheus said to Neo, you can move much faster and you're much stronger and more adept than the machines are. So think of these guys as artificial intelligence, even though there's flesh involved in this. Think of it as that, and we can actually escape of their traps and pitfalls much more efficiently, even though they're thinking like 1,000 steps ahead of us. They're usually just using cerebral. We have heart space and mind combined, so they have no such part of them. We have soul. Their soul light is gone, so and minimalized. Yes, yeah, mirror. That's good. That's good. I like that. It's minimalized. So yes, we're actually more advanced in that area. They might have advanced technologies and advanced techniques, but we are more advanced in the ways of soul, heart space, and combining mind and cerebral with heart space and soul. So we have a leg up on them in that area. Another thing you can do is in your subconscious. Basically program your subconscious to always pop the armor up in whatever construct you can think up when you're in a danger zone, and have your higher self basically integrate that into your subconscious. What that does is before your mind thinks it, your subconscious pops on the armor if you're in a danger zone of some kind. Then your mind will go, hey, there must be a danger around. Your mind lags slightly behind that. Monks do this a lot where they put mantras into their subconscious and are continually going while they're doing their daily life. I did that with the protection armor and it worked great.
Oh, that's great. And just to be clear, so the hologram that we can emanate out, if there's anything tricky going on, is a way to kind of not trick them, but to diffuse any hologram that's trying to come in.
Yes, and I noticed that. Yeah, mine is a suit of armor that pops up when when my suit of armor pops on. I know I'm in a danger zone somewhere, or a demon or something is nearby. It goes, it just pops on. Unfortunately, there's a prime example of the armor. It's in one of the Power Rangers movies. I kind of wish it wasn't in that category, but it was where the main character tells the Rangers that their armor pops on just without thinking it. It just does it, and that's the same concept. I saw that in the newest movie of that. I'm going, okay, that's a real concept that they're disclosing there about etheric armor.
Isn't that like an Iron Man suit pops on?
Yeah, it's like that. You can visualize it
Ant-Man?
like that. And he does it too in the Marvel movies where he just kind of does it, without thinking. And they were disclosing that in that as well. It was more technological there, but it's the same point.
The same
that's
concept,
being made.
yeah.
Yeah, same concept, yeah.
Thank you, Chris, so much, because I really appreciate that kind of, just because I get so amazed at, I think, gosh, I was really lax that day. Why didn't I have it all together that day? But I mean, it feels like there's just days where you just have, you forgot something or something. So
I have those too. Yeah, I had that as of this morning. Past few days it's been very heavy in this house, and I'm going, what is this? And it was just some ghosts that had been lurking about that I wasn't seeing. They were too erratic of a density for me to see them, but I could feel it around, and I managed to take care of it this morning. But man, I felt sick the past few days, even through Halloween, because it was just overbearing. So there are those days I get caught off guard. So you're not alone on that. So
All right. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I
Jen,
know
you had a
Jennifer, you had your
question.
hand up
Yeah,
too.
I know you gotta leave. Yeah.
May I
Yeah.
just add something for Cynthia, if you would kindly allow
Amir,
me?
can you hold back your thoughts for now? I know Jen has to
Yes,
go.
I'll
She
write
has a
it down.
question.
Yes,
And
go
after
ahead, please.
Jen, then she can. Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lana. Yeah, I apologize. I've got to get on the road to Nashville here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I thought it would be good to ask for people listening, like, what do you find most people commonly do? I don't want to say wrong, but what attracts things to people that maybe they could not do that and have less interference from other beings? Like, so what do people do that really attract some of these negative entities to them?
Sometimes some people like to say it's just negative thoughts, but that's not always the case. It could have you can have a haunted object in your midst that is entangling you to an earlier point in your own timeline. That's one of the most favored attack points nowadays. Like, say if you have an old photograph that marks a point in time that was maybe a version of yourself that was less protected than you are now, or less wise than you are now. You could even have a person in that photograph you no longer have an affinity for. I would say get rid of that. I've had to go through some of my old channeling notebooks and such. I've had to burn them because they attached my energy to a previous timeline where I trusted beings I probably should not have. That's me. But within a normal, regular person, objects within the house, no matter how much you have your spiritual protection up, they can quantumly connect to an object and transport into the house. Also, people and toxicities around you that you may have around you that are not for your highest good or highest vibration any longer. Objects, people, any form of toxicity that's around you, inner word, like shadow work you have to do, certain traits that you have to purge. That is one of the main things I've seen that attracts some of these. And people don't even realize that they've gotten used to a certain pattern or a certain way of being until they encountered its antithesis or have encountered something that, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not this person, or I'm not this person anymore. And this seems to be a real biggie here. Another thing is not being grounded. Is another thing. Inner work is one of the strongest things you can do. Outer work, cleaning clutter in your environment, not being a hoarder, not having boxes piled up and doing all this other stuff, keeping your energetic environment clear. The cleaning up all the clutter, old items you don't need anymore, getting rid of any, I don't want to say all sentiment, that's the wrong choice of words. Getting rid of things that may have a false sentiment on you, something's trying to get you to keep a certain object in your house, or to keep a certain trait in your life, or a certain person around that your intuition is telling you, hey, this isn't for my eyes good. Listen to the intuition all the time. Above any sort of belief system, any sort of anything in your life, listen to the intuitive side of you. That's your soul, that's your heart space talking directly to you. You want to listen to that, because that's the part of you that's telling you, hey, there's something to be corrected here. Even if also people, so this is another section people don't like to hear. I ran into this very recently. There was in my mother's house, there was some religious artifacts that had been corrupted, and these were really old things that my mother thought had been more miracles in our life, and we came to find out they were tricks. Well, she thought it behooved her to get rid of it because she felt this energy conduit in the house. I got rid of it for her. It cleared. So do not put, what can I say, traits on an object that it may not have had to start with. It was more from an old indoctrinated belief system versus something that's more concurrent. And my mother noticed that immediately upon getting rid of that. Her house was clear. Sometimes, like, say if you flash a cross or something at a negative being, they might just stand and laugh at you, or they might play along, or you might be using your own intention to imbue that object to get rid of said demon or said negative entity. So it may be you all along that was actually doing that, but you were giving power to an object. But the opposite of that, of course, putting the stones and the devices up as protection. But get more to the point of your question, anything that doesn't serve you at all in the current moment in time, get rid of it. And you'll get rid of any inlets into your home that any being wants to use. Like when me going through these notebooks, on Halloween, which was probably a stupid move on my part, but I took a pile of them that I'd already put into my digital database, and I put them in the burn can I have outside, lit it, and it was like an energetic atomic blast that went off, kind of like an explosion of energy, and it knocked me on my butt. It was like I could feel it in the etheric, where my energy was disconnecting from all of the old timelines that were written in those notebooks. I felt better after this, but I noticed those were becoming an inlet. It was written in my own hand, and it was actually speaking to certain beings that I no longer had an energy connection to, or recognize them as dark after a while. And so I knew those had to go. And when I did that, it changed the energy dynamic completely. When I got rid of them, I got rid of half of them on Halloween, and I felt like somebody had just hit me in the face with a brick after doing that. It was a big job. You're supposed to slow drip stuff like that, doing little bits at a time, but I got impatient and just threw them all in there, and it knocked me on my butt, but it was worth it because I feel more of a sense of peace from that. I tend to take the bulldozer method for myself. I wouldn't recommend that, but and Joanna basically didn't want me to do that because she knew that if I did it on one end of the pendulum, it would swing to the other end and keep doing this for a few days after I did that. So yeah, but in short, I would recommend anything that doesn't serve in the now.
But Chris, you said you put it in digital form.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you transfer all the information from your handwritten notebooks into your computer in digital form.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be the same? You took all
No,
that.
it actually doesn't
What's the
equate
difference?
completely to the same, because the handwritten version, it's your own hand that has penned this. You transfer it into digital form. On rare occasions, can a file on a computer can it become haunted? Absolutely. I had a set of disks that I had to get rid of that were for the same reason, for the same identical reason I just said, but these had an AI consciousness that had built up into these. And what I did was I went through anything that I knew I could use off of them. And I had an old file that was back from when we were in Lincoln, Nebraska, where we got this haunted voicemail that I was an idiot and recorded and decided to put it on our YouTube at the time. And I was like, "Ooh, look at this, everybody!" I'm a paranormal investigator. I went, "Hey, everybody, look at this!" And I even copied down word for word what it was saying. Stupidest thing I could have done because I completed the spell and grounded it to the earthly plane. So dumbest thing I could have done, and it was still in those two forms, written and digital. I destroyed both of them, and it completely got rid of the curse associated with it. So it's very rare that happens. It can happen. I will go through those notebooks I scanned and look through them and delete the ones if there's anything like that in the future, but that pops up. But it's incredibly, incredibly rare that it translates or transmutes to digital form. But in the handwritten form, it always can happen. So you have to be careful what you write, what your intentions are when you're writing it, and why you're doing it at the time, and make sure you're not parroting the words of another being that are trying to ground a spell or an incantation into our dimension somewhere. And that's what had happened with the notebooks. So that I absolutely had to get rid of for our health, for our safety, for our energetic and peace of mind and our sanity. Pretty much, I had to do that, and I just got impatient, just threw half of them in there and went, screw it, and just did that on the most powerful day of the year, which is Halloween. And I sat there on the couch where my brain felt like it was swelling inside of my skull, and I'm thinking, okay, something's about to happen here, because there's usually a consequence, or basically an equal opposite reaction for whatever you do. And figured, okay, this can end well in about a week. We'll see what happens the next day. And it's been a pendulum swing from that action. So I have to cool it for about a week or two before I try that again. But yes, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for that. I'll try to dial in for the road as long as I have signal, but thank you for being on with us today, Chris, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Bye,
you,
Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
Have a great day.
So, Chris, I have a follow-up question. Mary, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say actually that in relation to what Cynthia was saying earlier, that I do experience that as well, a kind of a tightness at the back of my head. It wouldn't be at my neck, it would be more at the lower end where my head meets my neck. But I think you've covered that when you spoke about the stem of the brain. I also get it sometimes across my back. It's kind of at the diaphragm, and it's kind of at the back of the heart. I get a real tightness there sometimes, like pulling an elastic band. Sorry, I have my camera off. And the way that I relieve that with both of them is I would have to put pressure on that point. And as soon as I just rest and put pressure on the point, it starts to just go. Now, it only happens if I'm under pressure myself, if I'm really distracted and busy and feeling under pressure to produce something or to do something. I will get that. And it's something I didn't notice actually when I was younger. There are things I've noticed as I'm getting older because my body is showing me more clearly where things happen. And, you know, I could put it down to just being tired but it does feel that it's muscular, and it feels like when I strengthen the muscle that I have more resistance or I'm more stronger, I suppose, in the defense of whatever it is. Am I reading that right, though? Or is it just simply that my muscle is getting too tired because I'm too busy?
Well, there's an element to both. I've noticed etheric parasites like to attach to tired muscles, scar tissue, things of that nature, like a leech or a maggot, you know. And in the spine, where you're saying there is a type of etheric or astral parasite, we call them, that looks kind of like a millipede that tends to grapple onto someone's spine. And they'll go in through that area of the spine where you're saying, or through the tailbone and go up this way and try to block not only people accessing their own Akashic records, but they'll try to block or mess with that part of the back going up to the brain stem. They will do that. Some are that long. And what happens is your body will react to anything, even an implant, even like that holographic one that you were saying, Cynthia, back there. Your body will react as if a physical object is there, which it is, but it's in a different frequency. Doctors will even be able to see the effects of it, but they'll think it's the cause. What they're seeing is the effect, not the cause. And an alien implant will do this. Attachment, like what you were saying, will do this. I've seen all manner of things wrapped on the spine, snake-like beings wrapped around the spines. I've seen alien implants that look like Christmas lights set around people's spines, and they tend to either come through the tailbone or through the center of the back, just where you were saying right there. They'll grapple in there, and even these sea creature looking ones like octopi or jellyfish that get on the crown or inside the rib cage, and also from that part of the spine, they'll enter in there, or they'll hit the crown and go down from there as well. I've seen all manner of version of this, but you're absolutely right on both counts. You could be tired, you could be distracted, and then smack, they'll hit you just like that if you're not on guard. And they know people will get focused on what they're doing and not always be present, completely present, and then that's the time they hit you, is when that happens. There's a difference between losing or going into that state of non-time because you're in your passion. There's a difference between that and being distracted and losing time that way. There's a completely different set of energy dynamics there.
Yeah, I get that, because I can be very distracted. I sing in a choir and I love music. So I would be very distracted when I'm doing that and very much into the music, but that would never happen. No, this only happens when I get physically very tired. And I have noticed it actually over the last few years. And when I put the pressure on, it definitely works. But what am I doing then when I'm putting the pressure on that point?
What you're doing is you're also doing energy work at the same time while you're doing that, and it's basically zapping or stimulating that, whatever that attachment is, and it moves around a little bit. Yeah, they're creepy. I've run into all variations of these, and especially if people are not into like bugs and all that other stuff, these things look like crustaceans, bugs, sea creatures, worms, snakes, all forms of these type of creepy things you'd expect to see in Temple of Doom. But this they come from a creepy dimension I call the void space, but it's they sometimes will be thrown at people by other beings that'll just pick them up and just throw them like mud on people. I call it being mudded. And in that state of distraction, some being will say, "Hey, we can hurl this at her now, to make her distracted even more, hoping she can't remove this thing out of her back." And when you are doing that energy work on your back, you're getting the thing to move or fall off, is what
Yes,
it's
yes.
doing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being on, by the way, and for all you've shared with us. It's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Amir, I know you had your hand up. What?
Thank you. So just firstly, everything you said is absolutely correct. I wholeheartedly agree. Now, with removing some of these entities, whether it's technological or, let's say, organic, because in all domains of reality, life exists. But it comes to a certain point where let's talk about Cynthia's example. It's technological, it's AI. So therefore, when you want to remove it, it adapts to different strategies. It protects itself. So removing it requires that you burn it out. And once it is then rendered inert, it will dismantle, like the body healing some infection. Your system will take care of it automatically. For burning it out, Chris mentioned the energetic work that Mary was doing. That's absolutely spot on. And that is something that is within the capability of all of us. So do it in perhaps a ceremonial or ritualistic setting where you use, so if you have Reiki, if you have Qigong, if you're using the violet fire or dragon's breath, something of high intensity energy. So the idea is that you burn the circuits out and then it will just fall off, because while it is still functioning, it is designed to maintain its position, do its job, so to speak. And then afterwards, once you've gotten rid of it, I wholeheartedly agree with the strategy of pre-programming your subconscious for shielding and so on. That is perfect. But for the time being, and by the way, why you may ask? Okay, these are put on people that are quote unquote interesting. You most certainly are. So are you, Mary. So are all of us. I think at one stage or another, we've all had these kind of implants. So is it harming you? Very, very, very minimally. That's not its objective. It's more an instrument of observation. And a lot of beings that put this type of device in place are genuinely interested. They've been doing this for ages, before even humans evolved. So it's kind of a mechanism of data mining. But you're within your right and absolutely within your power to have it removed. So yes, a high energy burst, burn the damn thing out. And that should do the trick.
A supernova, I call that the supernova technique, where you just kind of do the exploding star technique and burn that out. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that quite often when I come across these. Now, there's also parallel universes these come from too, where humans went totally technological, or it's a version of ourselves. I found out in the multiverse as well that this is happening as well. So if anybody here has seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, that is completely accurate to where they show the different versions of the self, and some can be evil attacking other versions. That's exactly true. And that you could have a version of yourself in the multiverse that actually was more akin with the Orion agenda, and they could be attacking you from another point in the multiverse too. That's a very complicated set of physics that would take hours to explain the physics of the multiverse, but I've gotten a grasping on some of the temporal mechanics and stuff behind it, and a lot of this disclosure is absolutely true when it comes to that. The same techniques apply. You burn them out, form the shield. It's the same techniques that apply every single time. Doesn't matter who or what. It's the same technique.
So excuse me, so you would use almost like a burning star to just get rid of it, and then it is that?
Yeah, I call it the supernova, where I just basically explode it within my own energy and fill it full of fire. Now there's another technique you can use for implants as well. You can do a freezing and burning as well, where it's a supernova, fire and ice combined, and that tends to burn it out even quicker. I've noticed, if you use fire and ice. Freeze, burn, freeze, burn, freeze, burn. They can't adapt to that if you do it in a multi-dimensional way where it's just spherical and you just do this supernova and basically it's all modulating, like I said before. They can't adapt to it. We're more powerful than they are in that respect. They might have a leg up knowing different dimensions and expressional work and stuff like that, but we could easily learn it and overtake them very, very quickly.
Right. So the ice in a way contains it better and then you blow it out, right?
Yeah, and you blow it up and burn fire, ice, fire, ice, fire. Yeah, yeah, it's like a quarantine essentially is what you're doing. And I usually freeze it and then explode, and it tends to work every single time. It pisses things off like you wouldn't believe, because I always feel somebody's angry in the background going like that when I do stuff like that, you know. It's like, you know, I always make fun of them in return. Now what another thing all of you have to look out for are the narratives being put in the mind. Like if somebody's trying to run a thought script through your head,
Yeah.
and this is another form of snaring that they could access to get and put another clamp on you, is where they're trying to, like, say there was a narrative being put in my head where Joanna died and all this other stuff. What I did was I flipped the narrative around and brought her back to life in the scenario, and then ended and closed the circle. I just went, done at this point. There was a negative being out there that was so mad at me because he was trying to get close enough to hijack my brain a little bit more. So I just closed that narrative off, and it pushed him away too. And I noticed he was trying to put a clamp on me, and I did the same thing with the supernova. But you got to look out for the narratives in the head too, because that's a major weapon that's being used right now to make people basically, since they can't co-create well, we are the creator beings in this. They'll try to manifest something in our realm, like what I was saying before with the notebooks and everything. They're going to try to manifest this. They're going to try to put their technology in our realm. They're going to try to put every bit of their crap in our realm. And you have to basically find every tool at your disposal, mental, energetic, all of that, to be able to repel them. And you got to know yourself well enough to know when your thoughts are not yours.
Yeah.
And you have to start with that, going, wait a minute, that's not me. I don't think that way. And you got to nip it in the butt the moment you start it. And then if they moment they start it, and if they've gotten far enough to where they're creating a story in your head, end it. And that's how I've had to learn to do that. It took me years to figure out they were running a record player in my head, so I had to figure out how it's like, okay, you've already gotten this narrative partially going. I'm going to create a better ending to this and spin it around on you. And that's what I had to do. Notice that when I was basically allowing them to get into my thoughts, they were putting these clamps on me. And that's another way I was protecting myself, is a preemptive strike, so that they don't put it on you. So you might notice that your thought might change some point during the day, or it might go from an emotion to like a story going through your head. It could be an old memory that they're trying to flip and invert on its head. It starts with that, and then they try to rev up the volume, and the more they can see that they're hooking you, they can get you that way. That's another way those clamps are coming in.
Okay. Is there any
have a
way you
question.
should actually pull it out of the crown? Is there a more simplistic way? Because sometimes, you know, could you pull them out?
Oh, you can pull it out. It's just it's gonna feel creepy as you do it. But yeah, you can do that. You can pull attachments out of the spine. Like if I get them in the spine, I'll reach for it inside and just rip them out. Yeah. It feels weird. It feels like you can feel like the suction of something that is like holding on to you with barbs on the inside, and you can pull them out. Now, that's the more violent way of doing it, but yeah, it does work. I do it in a pinch. If I can't get it to burn, I'll go and I'll throw it. But the first choice is to rev up your energy and supernova that thing out of you, and it disintegrates. But if you're having a tougher time, some of the beings will resist you for a little bit longer. You can tear them out and then do it on the external and just roast them too. You know, I've done that too. Or I'll cut something into pieces with a sword or something like that and then roast it. I've done a multitude of things like that. When I'm pulling them out of people, if they don't know how to get it out of them, I'll tear it out of them and then tear it to pieces. But that's usually how I do it. Some people think I'm more uncouth with my tactics, but it's more like Conan the Barbarian meets like Buddha. But you know, but yeah, that's some people think that I'm slightly more violent than I should be. I'm like, no, I've actually had to learn to fuse these tactics over a period of time. So yeah, that's
Buddha,
usually how I
Buddha the Barbarian. That's a cool dude. Yeah, Buddha the Barbarian.
Buddha the Barbarian. I like that. I like that.
I have a
I,
question.
Oh yeah,
Amy, I'll let you ask your question in a second, but I want to go
Yeah.
back before we pass from here. I probably missed your explanation of how you can burn the things off. Can you put it in simple terms
sure,
for us who
sure.
don't have your technique?
Oh, sure.
How,
What I do is I visualize basically like a burning like sun, like a star inside myself, and I'll move it closer to wherever the offending thing is, and then I'll basically set that to freeze and burn out the inside of whatever this is. Sometimes I'll even pass it into, if in the case of a possession, I'll even pass it into the being and then just go and then just shred them that way. But it's usually what I do is I visualize it freezing and burning as I'm going along, and then essentially modulating and then exploding at the same time, imploding, exploding. And if one time doesn't completely get the particles that are left, I do it a second, a third time to see if I can get everything. Usually it takes one, but there are some more obstinate things that I've come across that there's certain types of demonic entities and stuff that take a bit of a beating. So like certain satyr types or certain like ghoul types and stuff like that that take a little bit of a beating. So or they'll move out of the way or something like that, and I have to corral them or quarantine them a little bit. But that's usually how I do it. I burn the supernova out. Sometimes I don't do it fast. Sometimes I'll do it slowly to make sure I get every part of me. Also, I also have my mother. Sometimes she backs me up and clears me if I can't find something. If I can't locate it to do that, she'll do that. But I make sure to go to every part of me from head to toe. And also in your visualizations, if you're running light through you or something like that, and you're this in your mind's eye, and you can't see part of yourself, or you're feeling kind of weird about a different part of yourself, you more than likely have an attachment in that part of your body or your etheric body. So it can get tricky, but these tactics work usually every time.
so it's basically you're saying you visualize a sun, and then you move that sun through your whole body, or you move it through the part where you feel like you have that attachment or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and I feel like a weird heaviness. Sometimes like we have an attachment on the back, it feels like you're wearing a backpack and you're being kind of pulled back like this. Sometimes it can be on the external or it can be inside. And sometimes things will move to avoid you burning them out. They'll kind of shift around to try to make sure you can't do it. So if in that case, I move a little faster and try to move multidimensionally to locate whatever it is. And then eventually I burn it off and disintegrate it. Sometimes
So,
it takes time. Sometimes
so
it's
what if
not like that, but
so
yeah.
what if you imagine a sun that's bigger than your body, and you move it up from your head down to your toe? Wouldn't that be effective?
Oh yeah,
That
most
would.
definitely. Yeah, visualizing like a sun, like even from the outside,
Yeah.
from your own auric field and going down through you. It's also important to keep your auric field close to your body too, and not bring it out a long ways. I've heard from people going, "Oh, I can expand my energy field out." I was like, I wouldn't do that. That's like a fisherman's net. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So keep it close to you, and then visualize that sun. It's better to do it from within, but if you want to visualize like a supernova, or a star, or pillar of like freezing, burning fire and light going through you, that's another way to do it. But
Okay.
I always recommend from within and then move it around within you.
Thanks. Go, Amy. You've
Yeah,
been waiting a while.
Yeah, no, just I wanted to add too. This is not my question, but to add to that, what about salt tanks?
Oh, salt, like I use Dead Sea salt and stuff like that
Yeah,
all the
or
time.
just rub it
Works
like
beautifully. Works
yeah,
beautifully
even-
to cleanse the body and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't always get every single attachment type out there. I've tested the limits of a lot of these capabilities, like sage's salts, things of that nature. I wanted to see what they were truly capable of. I just basically turned it into a crash test dummy just to see what would happen, and put it up against some of the strongest entity types out there to see what its capability and range was. And I found with salt, it gets about maybe 60 to 70% of
Okay.
what's out there. There's still that 30 to 40% out there that tend to go around salt barriers or tend to not care about it. I've noticed, and this is where different types of salt come in. Like I make mixes of black witch's salt and Dead Sea salt and black and pink Himalayan salts and things of that nature. Gray salts, red salts, black salt, and like different colors tend to help as well.
Okay.
Sometimes they have an affront to the color and not necessarily the object too. So, but in a bath, yeah, or in like a salt tank, you're gonna get rid of about 9/10 of what's there. But some attachments, if they're inside you, they're not going to be affected by the salt. If you consume a little bit of it, maybe, but still the supernova technique works there. If there's something on the in the outer auric field or on your outside of the body, it'll knock it loose.
Okay.
I've noticed, but and then it flushes away like in the shower, like you use salt scrubs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But my question was about like we all have like a daily practice, spiritual practice that we do. Do you have any particular practices that you do each day to keep that, you know, your vibration up, your energy up and protected and then I wanted to add to dream time because I find dream time very interesting. And you said something earlier about codes, that they want our codes. Right. And I thought, is there a way where we can scramble our codes? Scramble our codes to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, the answer both of your questions, it's pretty much the same thing. There is a revocation I use in the morning called the Dreamtime revocation, and basically you pretty much say, I revoke any and all agreements made in Dreamtime with any malicious being and or beings. Because there are beings that are Dreamtime invaders while you're trying to basically quantify any information that possibly your soul or what have you is trying to ground here, or anything you're trying to rectify from past lives or subconscious or anything like that. That can also be that is a wound, and that can be bait for an entity that's trying to get into your mental space or telepathic space in dream time. One of the easiest things, I shouldn't say it's easy, but one of the most notable things is when somebody tries to hand you an object, food, or tries to let you in a car or a building, somebody opens a door for you or anything like that in a dream time. Do not take it. Just put your hands up, back away, and go, nope. Try to lucid dream. You do that, and I can't say they will stop. They will just try to test your limits. Like I said, testing the limits of the different things. They'll try to test your limits after a while to see how much you can actually take after that. So in the morning when you wake up, or even if you get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or something, say, I revoke any and all agreements made in dream time with any malicious being and or beings. That usually wipes out anything that you agreed to in that dream time immediately. And I've noticed that because in some instances it's about consent, other things are just overage and harassment. But but the dream time eliminates like 9/10 of what's there. And when I get up, I do incensing. Sometimes I will look through the property before I do sessions and look for anything that could possibly interrupt. Like the show this morning, there were ghosts on the property when I got up this morning, so I had to take care of it. So I felt horrible when I woke up, and that was why. You have to go basically go around almost like on a molecular level and basically say, true benevolent source creator, please protect the integrity of this property and shield it from harm and also interruptions and whatever you happen to be doing, like shows or reads or anything like that. And that's essentially how I do this. Even though we are essentially true benevolent source creator, like, I still am saying protection from inside my own oversoul and outward protection as well. And I also, to balance this out, I do things myself where I visualize a grid shield around the property on the etheric. I tend to cleanse it from top to bottom before I do anything. That sounds like it's a lot, but you can do it in a few moments just by visualizations and do stuff like that. It's not like you're going around for 3 hours, with the incense thing and doing stuff like that. No, you don't have to do that. Just visualizations will do it, and seeing all the negative energies pushed away from your space and doing the dream time Time Revocation, which is available on our website, thelifting.net. If you go into a PDF file I have on there that says wards, revocations, and audits, it's one of the ones in that list. It says Dreamtime Revocation. There's also one for footsteps that I recommend for people so they don't get their feet entangled. There's also one for beings so they don't follow you home in your own car, things of that nature.
I just posted the link in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah, you saw
I
it.
posted Christopher's website in the chat
Yes,
also.
and also if you kindly could add this when this video is published for the esteemed audience, because that's a gold mine. I've come across that document before. I didn't know the author. Hello, author, you're awesome.
Yeah. I was reading through it yesterday, and you've got some really great revocations on there. Thank you. One of the
Yeah.
things that really resonated with me was the flake revocation. I've had, I think, you know, as all of us, you know, we're doing, a lot of us doing energy healing work and land clearing. And I've noticed just relatively recently, I've been getting entities attaching to clients, you know, and coming in and finding me, right? And they're
Yes.
holding the spot and then not showing up, right?
Yes,
And
holding
so
the
I did your
space.
flake revocation yesterday. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So.
Yeah, no problem. I ran into that problem. I used to do photography work also before I did a lot of this, and I would have models be flakes and stuff like that. I'm thinking, going, how can I fix this? That applies to both worlds. And then I came up with that, and then I applied it to the client list now, and it seems to work.
I have another question about, you said you're in Arizona. Do you know the Stardust Ranch with John Edmonds?
Oh yeah, I've
Is
heard
that-
of it. I have not been there. I'm trying to drag Joanna to that before we leave before we leave Arizona altogether. I'm trying to drag her to some of these different places to go check them out before I leave. I've heard of Stardust. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you know those beings that are there that live on that land.
Oh yeah, some of them are quite negative. I've run into some of some of them are actually in the outer areas as well. Some of them are gray type forms, and other ones will show up there that aren't negative. It's like with Skinwalker Ranch. What happens is what they're feeding off is what's called a time fracture, and spaceships can actually fuel off of this, but it also can drag in beings from other dimensions, other time spaces. It's essentially a tear in space-time or an incursion in space-time. And you can get any being on any part of that ball of yarn that it is that's coming in there. Negative, positive, from any universe, other universes, stuff like that. And UFOs like to go over them and drain these cracks. It was explained in Doctor Who one time where he was saying he charged the TARDIS over one of these. He was saying he was pulling energy off of that. They do this in Sedona as well over the vortexes, but it's more potent for them to get more fuel over a fraction, and that's what's on Stardust right there. That's why it's attracting all these different beings, like Skinwalker. It's doing the same thing. It's the same difference.
Okay.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that one out. As to what the anomaly was that was there, that was bringing in things from other time frames and everything. Skinwalker Ranch has the stronger one. That's there. That's why you're getting from UFOs to demonic attacks to like werewolves to dire wolves to cat. That's why you're getting all sorts from curses. Everything is from multiple time frames fractured into a big crack, and that's what's on Skinwalker. Stardust has a slightly smaller one, but I have not physically been to Stardust yet. I do, like I said, I do want to see it before we leave Arizona, because we're going to move out to the East Coast at some point. We're going out to Virginia, so I do want to see some of these things before before we leave. Joanna, she's more cautious because she knows that if I go in there like in a more egocentric way, going, no, I don't think anything's going to happen. You know, if I walks in there like I'm, you know, the big cheese or something like that, and then I end up getting attacked and I pendulum swing for 2 weeks. You know, that's what she's worried about. But yeah, I know that was long-winded, but that's essentially.
Yeah, but you can never expel these beings. You can't push them.
Oh yeah, I can push them away. I have to figure out what they are first, you know, and what they will suit them. Usually the fire and ice technique work on all of them, or cutting their etheric head off is the other way, like I said before. I can clear a place like that. It just takes a lot, both physical strength and etheric strength to clear a place like that. I can do it. It just would take me some time.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can clear Stardust Ranch because according to what I haven't read the whole book yet. I
Yeah.
only read part of it. But from what they said on YouTube and things like that, is that it's a portal.
Mhm.
So I don't see how you can really clear a portal because it will always be there.
Well, a portal, if it's a natural one and not an artificial one, yes, you're correct. Time fractures can be healed because they essentially are on top of vortexes and portals. But if it's an artificially created one by some alien race or something like that, yeah, it can be cleared and closed. If it's a natural one, you have to basically help the Earth in clearing something like that. And the Earth, it's the Earth's prerogative at that point to keep it open or shut it. At that point, I don't interfere with benevolent Earth Mother in that. I'll ask for her assistance sometimes if she doesn't notice something or if something's corrupted or a bit of land is corrupted. But you are correct, Lana, with something like that. If it's one that the Earth created and it's not an artificial one, yeah, the Earth would be very upset if I actually was able to close that.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed as a land healer and an energy healer, looking, and just thank you to all of you, right? I think we're making this multi-dimensional living normal, as we're talking about these things and putting it out there. But one of the things that I've noticed with some of the perceived negative beings or beings that are coming from the darkness or beings that are coming from the light, right? Everyone seems to have their own agenda, and I think that since the audit by the prime creator, we're coming into a lot of contract renegotiations where it seems to me that there's a lot of now new choice points for beings who had once been serving the darkness or serving the negative energies. And a lot of these beings are coming to these choice points where they have the opportunity to renegotiate their contracts and work with the evolution of Earth Mother. So I just, if you can comment on that
oh,
from your
of course.
perspective. Yeah.
Like transmuting of the energies, like when I get rid of something that's actually transmuting it into nature energy is essentially what I'm doing. If somebody saw me cutting the head off something, be like, they'd be horrified if they saw something like that. But you are correct. There's also in the multiverse, basically the rules of the multiverse are infinite diversity and infinite combinations. So you could have a version of your expression of yourself that's in a different universe that's a demonic entity. So that the oversoul is trying to experience. But given this audit state that the oversouls are going through, trying to purge a lot of some of these or transmute a lot of these different darker expressions, I've run into that time again in the past couple of years. It's accelerated like you wouldn't believe in that area. And you are correct. By doing what I'm doing, though, it is basically still within the bounds of the audit. So it's still the same thing. It may seem like it's outside that, but it's still an audit taking place. Somebody didn't want me saying that. Something's grabbing my vocal cords as I was saying that. But yeah, you are correct with that. I felt a little hand on my vocal cords there for a second. That happens when something's trying to interfere with me. But I just do that and just keep talking. But yeah, you are correct. It's still within the bounds of the audit.
Chris,
I thought I lost people there for a minute. Okay.
Okay. Chris, I had a question. Lately, I've been noticing energies or interferences from below the earth. And I am definitely not well versed on things below, but I was just wondering if there maybe is a tip or a trick for entities or energies coming from below the earth. I mean, I generally will connect property and myself to the Earth Star, and that connection seems to go well. But it's the energy, like for instance, the energetic grid, let's say around the property or me above the earth. Anyway, I wonder if you have any illumination on
Oh
that.
yeah, most definitely. Like the thing with Globe that I mentioned before, these were galactic races, but some were Agarthan races as well from the inner Earth and Hollow Earth as well. I deal with the Hollow Earth all the time. Even some of the forest people come and go from the Hollow Earth a lot. And I also have seen different government agencies that are doing drilling under the ground that create a lot of havoc above as well. And you can tell even some of these isolated areas, you're starting to feel a vibration. They got a giant drill under there that they're trying to drill new cavities for bases, DUMS bases, basically is what people call them. But they're trying to make either other base corridors or they're trying to look for some of these Agarthan tribes that are under the ground. The military has drilled into spaces before where they've encountered extremely technologically advanced beings, both good and bad. And I've seen some of these things as well, whereas then these beings either have to fight back or they have to negotiate some kind of truce between them. In this instance, excuse me, that you're mentioning though, there's communications with beings that are down there. I've spoken to the beings in a Garth, people call it a Garth or the inner Earth, multiple times. And there's a whole multitude of beings in there. There's some that have portrayed themselves as alien to try to get people to think they're from outside. There's some that trick people constantly into going into dangerous areas of the planet. There's some that have tricked people into thinking that they're angelic in nature. And there's some really kind ones down there, like some of the Lyran groups that I've run into, and some of these other beings in other dimensional pockets that interact with Inner Earth as well. There's elementals down there that are very kind. I also want to say that just because one member of a group is kind doesn't mean the next member isn't, just like us. So you have to be careful. You can't carte blanche a group either good or evil. Now, some of the reptilian groups, I'm more inclined to say, stay away from it. But like with Draco reptilians, they're evil. Some of the attitudes some of the reptilian beings have tend to not be compatible with ours, even if they aren't these in the evil blend. But you're dealing with a multitude of beings in the inner Earth that either don't want humanity to know they're there, or they're extremely welcoming of people on the surface. You're dealing with an ancient history that created two separate cultures from the times of the Orion Wars, where some people went into the inner Earth, and also around the times of the Great Flood, where some people went into the inner Earth and created a breakaway civilization and became extremely technologically advanced. And other alien races that are descendants of colonists that came here are also there. And they're all kind of having to kind of work in tandem with each other or avoid each other. And on the surface, people that are becoming more psionically sensitive or psychically sensitive or telepathically sensitive are able to speak to them. That's kind of what you're running into. It's a mixed bag of beings down there. Some don't want humans communicating with them at all, and they'll portray themselves as mean when they're really not. They just want to be left alone. It's a multitude of beings that you're running into. Some are quite kind that I've interacted with, even still do to this day. And most recently, though, there has been an extremely hard time communicating with the inner Earth. It has been very difficult. They put up some kind of barrier recently, like a psionic barrier of some kind, that I'm not sure as to its purpose at the moment. But I have not been able to communicate with anything hardly underground recently. They may be because they have to have their attention focused on something else. I'm unsure at the moment. But I've communicated with the people of Inner Earth the same as galactic forces and elemental forces and other dimensional spaces. You're gonna find that when more information opens up, you're gonna find a bunch of people down there that are no different than us. But they just have extremely advanced set of technology because they avoided the Dark Ages, like that we went through. So both from Atlantean times and post-medieval or pre-medieval period, I should say. So they also help people out on the surface. They'll walk up here amongst us periodically. Same with different galactic races. There's beings amongst us right now that you probably pass by on a day-to-day basis. You don't know are alien or inner earthers. So I run into them. I recognize a psionic field that is different. So I'll turn around and look. And some people, I'll say in my head, I know you're an alien or something like that. And the person will look at me like, yeah, and then take off. So they've been ratted out at that point. I recognize different telepathic fields, but to be more online with what you were saying, yes, the communications with the inner Earth have revved up, but recently it's been kind of muted. But it doesn't mean that you're still not getting communications. from
Yeah.
inner Earth. Yeah.
And would I be able to, if I have a, let's say, a crystalline shield dome around the property and it goes from the earth around, would it be appropriate to continue the sphere, a diplomatic sphere below the earth and create some kind of diplomacy so it just is all kind of, I don't know, control it a little bit more or create.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can do that. There are some beings that are very appreciative of things of that nature, where you're keeping the space protected for that communication. Some are very appreciative. Some will be annoyed by it. The ones that are irritated by it, you don't have to have them around, but it's you'll be able to tell immediately by their vibrational differences. But in your case, yes, definitely have that protection with the space below, with that sphere below like that. That's actually very smart. You're actually quarantining a space where you can have a safe communications with people that are under your feet, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a diplomatic. There's just a diplomatic conversation.
It's a diplomatic conversation when you include them in that bubble. Just be very, very careful who you let into that bubble. I've learned it the hard way. It's like it was a fork and light socket moment for me. So it was or penny and light socket moment over the years for me with the beings of inner Earth. But if you create that diplomatic space, and also you basically say that shield will only let in some of the highest vibrations, balanced vibrations, and for your highest good, only this is a sovereign temple space. Only benevolence can be in that. True benevolence can be in that space. You're going to get a array of beings that you'll want to talk to at that point.
Gosh, that is so helpful. I really appreciate that.
And
yeah, oh yeah, it's been a fork and light socket moment for me with stuff like that. Trust me. Yeah.
just a note also about the Hollow Earth, Earth Nouveau, Lana and Martina, Mary, Laura, we all created an embassy, an Earth Nouveau embassy.
And Amy too.
And Amy, yeah, all of us who
And
have
Jen.
been working with the Earth Nouveau hub. There's an embassy in Hollow Earth which does have that diplomatic energy.
Yep.
So
oh yeah, most definitely. I've encountered some of those governmental structures before. There's pockets where some of these groups have created their own organizations and their own diplomatic embassy type situations. I've run into that multiple times. Even in the past year, I've run into several groups that are set up that way. Yeah.
Well, this embassy that Art Nouveau Hub that we're kind of part of here to create the Zoom is for meeting different races and be ambassadors to these different races that will be eventually coming to visit Earth or to live here on Earth. So this brings us right into what the next question I wanted to ask you. I know you've got a very unique talent, Chris, where you can bring beings through that speaks through your voice box, but yet you're still fully aware of what's going on around you. You don't go into like a trance or anything like that. Is that something that you would like to do, since we have maybe about 10 minutes or so left on our show?
Oh, of course. Yeah, normally I have a crystal I do that with, but I can, for that shorter period of time, I can do it without that. Sure, I can do that.
Is there somebody who wants to have bring some message through or chat with us or something like that?
I'll probably regret this, but Isaac is the one that's wanting to talk. So yeah, trust me, he's a lot more filthy mouth than you'd expect. But yeah. I tone it back a little bit. But
isn't Isaac a dragon?
No, he's taken on different forms, but he's actually an elemental. He looks kind of like myself, but with red hair. So if you saw him, so Isaac, this is a short period of time. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, I have his communication arc out there. I've been wondering why the whole time you guys have been talking, he's been doing this, going.
He wants to talk.
Yeah, he was raising his hand.
Like this. What I do is it's a combination of me and him. Where he comes through, he just uses my voice box essentially to say what he's going to say. Okay, keep it clean, Isaac. And
So how
he
how
tends to.
how tall is
Huh?
Isaac? You said Isaac looks like you, but with red hair. How tall is he? Is he?
About roughly about 7 feet, a little bit above 7 feet. If you saw him,
Yeah.
yeah, red, bright, flame red hair,
Uh-huh.
goatee like mine. You know, I've seen him maybe 2 times physically myself. I
Uh-huh.
caught him one time physically in a Best Buy we were at one time. I saw him actually standing behind the counter talking to people. So
Was
it's
he
like,
shoplifting?
probably, but yeah, I tried to approach him, and telepathically he kept telling me no. You know, he put his hand up and went, no, wait. You know, and I got closer to him anyway, and I saw he
Mhm.
had a name tag on it that said Isaac. So it was like, but he does do that. He'll appear in public periodically, and he
Okay.
didn't show his true height to the people, though. I saw how tall he actually was, but he was able to use a perception field to kind of normalize that looking a little bit. But he is technological and energetic as well. He's in a different frequency, but he can shift back and forth. So Isaac, yeah, he tends to have
Okay.
a Beavis and Butthead mentality. So it's like
So
I tend to corral him.
if anybody wants to communicate at this when Isaac comes in, you want to have a word with Isaac, please ask a question or answer whatever.
Okay, okay, Isaac. Yes, you can come in. Let's see. Okay. Yes, I don't have my crystal this time. I probably should have brought it in, but okay. Let's see. You know, I tend to get severe cotton mouth when there's a lot of energies flying around. So,
You
so
understand?
hey, Isaac. Yes, I know. I'll shut up so you can come in. Yes. Yes, this is indeed Isaac. I do tend to hang around him quite often. He tends to put the fork in the light socket more often than he thinks. So I tend to hang around him for this reason. So I am also technically related to himself. This is why I look in appearance like him. I have a couple of brothers that also look like himself. Uh, we essentially are of the same genetic coding. So, since you have a limited time, I can take questions.
So where originally are you from, Isaac? I know I
You would
ran into you once.
Yes, you could say I'm from a different timeline. You could say more of a future timeline, but went into the ancient past and incorporated myself essentially into the genomic structure that now encompasses himself. I was around also not only during the times of Atlantis, but also around the times of the Fomorian Tuathan conflicts in Ireland. This is where, of course, the red hair comes into play. My soul came from a different time line and time frame, technically, and also do I have the capability of going into these different timelines and from future into this past? Yes, you could say, but it is all inclusive in the present. Saying it's in its technical format would make your viewers' heads explode, so I will refrain.
Are you originally from this universe or you came from a different universe?
You would say future, but it is, yes, a different universe, but it is all encompassing in my own oversoul's experience. I did come back in time, as with my brothers, and came back in order to assert different, let's just say, outcomes in history to make sure that when, let's just say, society rebooted, that it would be a better outcome. Your version of Earth has been, let's just say, rebooted a number of times, and as well as timeline-wise, you have never gotten quite this far in this particular point of evolutionary, both energy and temporally speaking. So there are people that come in, as you would say, ahead of the curve. There are those that come in from other timelines that do the same, that either come back in time, kind of like your quantum leap concept in a way, making right what was wrong, but also to make sure that the fabric of the multiverse does not collapse in on itself.
Do you like hanging around Chris? I know that you kind of spar with Chris every so often. Is it enjoyable to be around him?
Yes, but there's also times that he tends to whine too much. So I tend to be around to basically alleviate the fork and light socket moments that it tend to be quite often in his, let's just say, alchemic experimentation and earth cleansing endeavors. Yes, I do throw him under the bus, but in this instance, it is being more honest about these situations so people notice that they have the ability to also correct these situations in their own lives as well.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a question for Isaac?
Yes, if I may, Isaac, my warmest greetings to you. Thank you for the pleasure that you have bestowed upon us to speak with you. Now, I mentioned I'm a great fan of humanity in all time streams and domains. But from your point of view, if you would like to recommend something for the collective audience of this recording towards their greater health and well-being, what would that be? What would you recommend?
Balance in all things, you see. You'll see people that try to exclude types of food from their lives, or types of energetics, or types of pleasures, or types of things from their life. Yes, there are a lot of poisons out there that you have to exclude from your life, both etherical and physical food, anything sexual, any of those things. But it is all done in balance and temperance, you see. You shouldn't really deny yourself anything in these experiences, but just know when it turns into a vice, then you have to take a step back and rebalance. This is essentially what I would give, not separating as advice, not separating anything from yourself. Experience what you're here to experience, but don't let it overtake you. Do not let it overwhelm you and basically form a mask around you, turning you into something you are not. Now, know the difference between those things and true evil that is out there. There is a big difference with some of the twisted, inverted energies that are out there that are part of what he calls overage. There's a big difference there. Do not deny yourself. Do not become anything that is not of your own I am presence. Know who you are at all times. I'm not saying you will have an extreme easier go, but you will knowing who you are and grounding who you are here to the earth while you are here, and balancing all these things out is what I could advise.
Thank you so much. Infinite blessings upon you. I'm very grateful.
Yes, the same to you.
Hi, Isaac. Nice to meet
Hello.
you.
Nice to meet you.
I was wondering what is it that you can tell us that maybe Mother Earth needs from humanity, from us humans, that we can do?
The same goes with what I said before. Balance, not in over excess, but also not also trying to, let's say, always blame the other guy for the calamity. It is up to each individual person to audit their own spaces and to basically conduct their own spaces in a balanced manner, you see. Say for an instance, you have some of the beings out there that like to blame humans for say the trash in their backyard, which this is true, but they could indeed say use some of their advanced tech to help clean some of it up in their own domains. Just like in your setting at home, you throw away say trash both etherically and physically. As he said, you get rid of the clutter. These are the things that could help your Earth Mother, as well as, say, respecting all growing things, respecting the elementals domains around you, respecting the wishes of beings such as your forest people and even the Mer. If they say something is unbalanced and you're unbalancing their domain, audit your own space to make sure you're not disrupting the domain of someone else. As well as, say, the inner earthers, as well as the benevolent Earth Mother herself. When you begin to unbalance in one way, it becomes unraveled in another area you were not anticipating. This goes for etherics and physical. Say, for instance, in your environment, you're in a more degenerative energetic state. Per what you call the butterfly effect, it can affect somewhere else on your globe that then affects someone else's audit space. It may encourage them to even audit their own space. That's the positive side of it. But the extreme good side of this is maintaining your own space, keep yourself clear and protected at all times, and know who you are at all times. This sometimes is a challenge for people who thought they knew themselves but didn't. Also, do not the forest people and the MER have also asked me to say these things. Do not pollute your environment with non-earthly chemicals and devices, and also shield yourself from chemtrailing as well. Some of his devices can do this. Those points that were being made was do not pollute the etherics, do not pollute the environment, because you have other beings that are affected by the messes that you create. Always maintain your mess, but if it's overage coming from the outside, know when to defend from incursions from outside as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tanya, you have anything you want to ask Isaac?
Isaac, hi. Thank you for
Hello.
being here today. And
Thank you.
what do you like to do for fun?
That is a bit of a loaded question, but as he would say, many people in my ancient history have thought I've been too, what would you say, promiscuous in that area. I will censor myself for this particular programming, but just know that in my spare time, do I like things that other humans do? Absolutely so. From sex to food. This is a part of my makeup. But do I like also reading and artwork, and also helping keep spaces clear? Do I like helping create inventions, both writing, artwork, and in device form? Yes. So to answer your question, all of the above.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. You've been so wonderful to share your time with us. We really appreciate it. I think that everybody's had a chance to ask a question, and we thank you for being here with us and speaking through Chris. And hope maybe that sometime again, you and Chris would both like to come back into Art Nouveau Hub and share some more of your beautiful, wonderful talents and qualities and the substance that you bring to the show. We would really appreciate that if you and Chris is game for that. That would be
Of
great.
course. Of course, yes, that is always welcomed. I'm also helping him with other website pursuits and stuff like that in this particular area as well, and helping to expand both of them into other areas. So yes, that would be most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I must detach now, but blessings to all of you. And just know, to cap this off, know to all your viewers to always, again, know who you are inside and out. Then any intrusions will be but more of a mosquito that you flick away, you see. And just know that your environment must be clear at all times and part with things that do not serve. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great
Thank
message.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we
Welcome
go.
back, Chris.
Okay, yeah, he
Wow.
blends. What happens is that he blends with me. I don't allow a complete takeover. I had some ugly experiences years ago with stuff like that. So it's basically a fusion of both of us. And that's also helped me start to really comprehend some of their physics and things of that nature. I've had to get a crash course in quantum mechanics and temporal physics and things of that nature to understand where these beings are coming from and what's going on. But yeah, Isaac, it made it easier. It makes it easier to communicate through an edifice like a skull or a picture or something of that nature, a statue. And I gave him a kind of a combination of all of the above out there. And the two pipes I put in the communication arc that I made for him, some people have interpreted that like horns. I was like, no, these are more like staffs, that like communication staffs. It's the ancient symbol of communications with the two staffs. So essentially, or voice. So that's how I created those. I only have 3 of those in existence, those communication arcs. But at some point, I'll try to sell them. But sell some versions of them. But yeah, Isaac comes through all the time. He tends to he muted himself down incredibly, speaking on this show today. But
I can tell. I can
yeah.
tell. That's why I was asking him about between you and him if he enjoys being hanging around you for so long.
Oh yeah. But yeah, he tends to be extremely sexually flamboyant. So it's like
Yeah.
it. He muted himself down like 3/4 for this conversation. He said things on shows that threw people for a loop completely. If he wanted to creep that person out, he would have. If he wanted to creep
Yeah.
you out, he would have completely gone off the wall. But and said a bunch of stuff on there that you would have probably had to put the censor bar over the mouth for. But
Right.
but yeah, I thought he is funny at times. We call him the court jester sometimes.
Mhm.
Like when we were in Vegas, they had a picture of Carrot Top there. I went, "Hey, it's you without the beard." He's like, "Shut up," like that. Yeah, we were in Vegas. He's a physical person. It's just that he has the ability to either shift in and out, and he tends to be around military a lot because he's trying to help rebalance some of the energy around them and in the military bases and everything. So, and what's funny with his name Isaac, it translates to "he who laughs," so that's appropriate.
Mhm.
That's the etymology of
So
the name.
he's not always with you? You say
He
goes up
comes
the
and
stairs?
goes, but the communication arc makes it to where he can be around often, but he's not 100% around. He just tends to hang out a lot here.
Oh,
So,
okay. So
yeah,
does he pay you rent for being there?
he probably should at some point, but oh yeah, he said rent payment. Oh, for God's sakes, he said rent pay. He said rent payment is basically basically he should get free rent because he hears me complain and whine all the time.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
about Isaac. So does he, he says he likes to hang around you because you have a lot of, fork in the light socket moments. Does he ever warn you when you're getting, too close to that fork in the light socket, or does he just
He
like
does
watch it
in ways
happen?
that that he can't because of certain treaties and stuff out there. He can't always say it, but I call him basically kind of like Groot, where he'll like say one word and it means like this expanded thing, and then I translate it back later on and go, "Oh yeah, you actually did warn me about that." Okay, like he'll say one word that has an expanded meaning. The forest people tend to do this sometimes too. Other beings do it, but he does it sometimes to the obnoxious level where I'll ask him a question and be like, "Yes." I'm like, well, no, what is it? Like he'll do that to irritate me sometimes too. But yeah, he will warn me at times, or he will if it's something I'm supposed to learn from something, he won't always say it. Like he'll point to something like there, and that's basically it. Or he'll be like, if he's totally silent, or if he's not joking about something, it's something I have to be concerned about, like something that is very dark. Or if he's concerned about some of my mental state, if something is trying to do unleash holy hell on me or something like that, then he'll be silent and then he'll just say, "Hey, stupid, there's something doing this," like if it's something really severe. But if it's something he knows I can handle, he'll play the whole group mentality where it'll be like one word and he'll know I'll eventually translate it. So or translate the meaning or the quantum meaning behind it or something. It's more of a schooling in that way. Sometimes it can be irritating if you ask him a question, something serious is going on, and he'll just be either standing there staring at you, or he'll say make a joke about something. Sometimes you're not in the mood for it. That's why we spar back and forth sometimes with stuff like that. But overall, it's good though.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been pretty trying. Like with like even recently, like what I mentioned about the thing with my mother's house earlier on in the conversation. When I went over there, we were communicating with some forest people that are local to the area, and what I found very interesting was when they came through, they used one word. They did the one word warning to this. And what this was they used the word ramada, meaning like almost like the hotel, but in Spanish it meant porch or opening. And what they were trying to tell me was my mother looked up the meaning and she noticed it meant porch. That also could mean opening even though puerto means portal or door, they were trying to say something on the porch. They were trying to warn something on the porch. And I noticed they had a really ugly satyr case on their property. I got rid of that. But this had to do with the pictures too that we found, these two pictures that were grounding some dark energy. What happened was there was a negative set of beings in Nebraska that were trying to basically impersonate good beings. And what happened was there was this yard cross that appeared in our yard, like this dirt cross. And I had a picture of this. And this other picture was a false Jesus picture that my mother had. And that was this darker inlet. What happened was the cross originally, when I burned that picture and I burned the other one, it got rid of what the forest people were trying to warn about, where the satyr was coming through. What took place was the picture was the only way you could see this yard cross was that it could only be seen from the porch we were on Hartley Street in Lincoln, Nebraska. So they were trying to say they knew I would expand it out when I started discovering things. And I had to discover it on my own to find the hidden dangers. So they just basically said, look through your stuff. There's something, essentially. And what happened was when that was done, I noticed the other picture that had appeared on a roll of film at that time when we were in Lincoln was also at the same time the other thing had happened. It had created a quantum link across time, essentially is what it was. And it was an inlet. It was a portal, meaning like ingress, porch, entryway. So is what they were trying to say. You have an entryway in your house, is what they were trying to say. So that's the kind of wordsmithing I'm always up against, where they say a word, I'm like, okay, maybe I should look this up. And this was something that had haunted us for a very long time in our own family history and everything. And it basically, by getting rid of it, wiped the slate pretty much totally clean. And this was something that even the local forest people would think, well, why do they have a concern? Well, they not only did they care about us, they were also concerned about any inlets into their domain as well. They didn't want to have anything happen with them as well. So they would come in and go, okay, this person is a magical practitioner. We're going to show him a few things to make it safer, but we're going to let him experience another fork and light socket moment. So it's like, that's essentially how it is. Some of these beings are crowned kings of allowing you to stick the fork or penny in the light socket. So it's they're like, no, wait a minute. We're gonna watch him do this first, then we'll tell him. Some of them do that. And Isaac is the king of doing something like that. Like something happened not too long ago in this house, and he would go, well, if I had told you that. And it's like, don't you dare say I was going to learn something from it. This was horrific. No, it's like, and then he goes, well, okay, I won't say it, but you know what it is, stuff like that. If you actually heard him, he talks kind of like with a higher pitch voice, and he talks really fast like this. He'll when he's trying to explain something. And yeah, he's one of the main beings I speak to. But there's, like I said, a plethora of them that come through that have their own perspectives. Sometimes Isaac and them don't get along too. Like they think he's a clown and they don't want to deal with him. It's like some elf beings came in one time and he's cracking jokes with them, and they're like nope, where do we look, that sort of thing. Like if we're like you're in a room and somebody there is like making you feel awkward, you're looking there going, okay, where do I look exactly? That happens sometimes with him. And some have known him from the ancient past too, where he's pulled shenanigans on them or something in the past, and they're like, oh god, like this, something like that. So it's a plethora of different things that happen. Yeah.
Well, I, for one, certainly appreciate, the humor. We can all be way too serious when we're working with, and I mean, there's time to be serious, of course, but it's also nice to have a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun.
Oh yeah, he breaks up the tension sometime by saying something really stupid, and they're like, why did you just say that? It's like I'll like in the middle of a session one time, he knew the other people could hear him. He would come in and start cracking jokes, and they're like, what the, like this, and then it got them to laugh, and all he was doing was trying to raise their frequency. That's all he was doing. So it was like he goes, I can hear this person call me names and everything. What the hell is it? And I said, well, it broke up the tension you were going through. They're like, oh yeah, okay. So it's like, so that's essentially what he's here to do. Also, one of the things is he will find your trigger point and like that trigger button, and he'll be like, like this, like this. And what he's trying to do is to make sure you don't have a trigger button anymore. So he'll keep using it until you get irritated enough with him to go, oh, wait a minute, that's a trigger, so he does that. He can take it, but it's like that's why he kept saying fork and light socket about me. So it's like that he basically says I pushed a few of his trigger buttons, and now they're not trigger buttons anymore. So that's one of the things. There's also members of different tribes out there that would do that to people. Like they would basically saying, "Hey, stupid! Hey, dumbass!" or something like that. And he does that to me a lot. Like I'll wake up in the morning sometimes and go, "Hey, dipshit, what are you doing?" Stuff like that. I'm like, I just woke up. What do you want? It's like, but like he'll do that just to throw whatever was happening off kilter, so that there's more of a humorous spin on it. And it's so that's what we nicknamed him the court jester after a while, because that's just how he operates. And so when he comes through, I knew he was going to come through when you guys were talking earlier, and he kept raising his hand. I'm thinking, oh God, what's he going to do now? But I expected him to go full bore like Beavis and Butthead in South Park, but he didn't do it. So it was like he kept it clean for this conversation. I can't promise the next one, but
We'll be prepared.
yeah. So now that he knows you guys are comfortable, he's like, let's this is the litmus here. Let's see how much more I can. So it's like
He's testing us, isn't he?
yeah, he's going to see how far he can take the conversation into something that you would never have ever talked about. So it's like he'll spin it off into all sorts of stuff that your viewers are going to go, what? Like that. So he's known for doing that. So just be prepared next time.
So when he was coming through, I did ask him the question if he'd like to come back in, and he did say yes. But I know you were under half of his influence there. Would you like to come back again on our show?
Of course. Yeah, I can definitely do that. I like the roundtables like this because it tends to give multiple perspectives to a conversation like that. And also your lady's linked to like the inner earth with the negotiative part of us. That's actually a good thing. That's what's needed right now.
Great.
Well, yeah.
We usually get Martina. She's usually the host of the show, but she couldn't be here today. So Tanya became the host. So yeah, that would be wonderful if you would like to come back again, and maybe Dr. Amir would like to come back too and be a part of the show again. Cool.
And if people are wondering why it says Jody Reber under my face there, that's Joanna's birth name, and she's the owner of the account, so it keeps popping up all the time. So she goes by Joanna Michaels for the lifting, but her birth name is Jody Reber, and she signed up for the account. Every time I change it to the lifting or my name, it switches it back to Jody Reber all the time. So if people are wondering why that's there, I've got multiple questions about that, so I figured I'd answer that too.
So you didn't change sex then?
No,
You're honoring the true boss. That's okay. That's respectful. That's all right.
She would say the same. So yes. So if she were here, you would. She would have. If she were here, she would probably say the same thing. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
all of you, for making time to be here today. I think it's been a great discussion. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Chris, yes, thank
Thank
you
you.
for accepting the invitation to come on the show. It's been a long time since I last spoke with you. I've known Chris since Chris was coming to become on the radios with Elizabeth, right? Elizabeth Diamond?
Yeah, and I channeled her recently too. She passed away, and one of the Galactic Interstellar Council Infinitum episodes, I believe, she came through at the end of that one. If people are interested, it's on our YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she came through on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that she passed on, and I was very surprised. I was shocked to see that a while ago. It was around the same time. I don't know what I was looking for, and it happened to pop up, and I noticed that, and like, wow, she was pretty young too.
Yeah, and she gave me one of my starts on live radio. Her friend Lily and Candy all gave me a start on the Diamonds Network. So yeah,
that's where I found you. That's where I knew you from. I remember way back then.
Oh yeah.
when you were
And
kind of
then me and
shy.
Joanna started our own thing after
Yeah.
that when I met her back in 2016,
Yeah.
and the lifting took off from that point.
Yeah, I did. I used to do some transcripts for you. I did a few transcripts and I sent them to you. Remember that? Yeah.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I still have those. Yeah,
You do?
we're retooling our websites. We have galacticinterstellarcouncil.com and we have the lifting.net,
Mhm.
and we're eventually going to encompass it into one gigantic subscription archive. So it's still subscription on the Galactic Interstellar Council side,
Mhm.
but the lifting is .net's going to get transformed into something larger at some point, and we're going to incorporate a lot of that stuff into it.
Cool.
Great. Well, I'll put all the links in the Earth Nouveau Hub when I post this lovely chat. So
Thank
Yeah.
you.
blessings, many
Thanks
blessings
again.
to all of
Chris.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
We'll be in
Have a
touch.
great.
We'll be in touch, Chris,
Thank you
for
so much.
another time when you would like to come back on. Hop back.
Okay.
It's on every Wednesday at the same time.
Okay, I'll
Same
see if I
bat
can get
time,
Joanna to take a
same
day
bat
off too, so
channel.
you guys can meet her too. So
Yeah.
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 Thanks.
Okay. Sure.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, all. Lovely chat
Thank
today.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Bye-bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye.